It was a Thursday morning in late October, the kind of morning where the light comes in sideways through old curtains and everything smells faintly of the night before. I was 11 years old, sitting at my great-aunt Rivka's kitchen table in Jerusalem. She was 83. Her hands were moving without looking down, cutting, folding, placing, doing 4 things at once, the way women of her generation did, as naturally as breathing. And she was talking. Not to me, exactly. She was talking the way old women talk when they have lived long enough to stop performing and start transmitting. She said, almost to the air, "Every morning in this house we have done the same 5 things. My mother did them, her mother before her, and not one generation of this family has gone hungry." She did not say it proudly. She said it the way you state a law of physics, just a fact of the universe she happened to have access to. I did not fully understand what she meant that morning. I was 11. I was thinking about breakfast, but I wrote it down that evening in a small blue notebook, the way my father had taught me to record anything that felt like it carried weight I could not yet measure. In the decades since, 34 years of studying, teaching, counselling families across 3 continents, I have come back to that sentence more times than I can count. Because what Rivka was describing was not luck, not inheritance, not discipline in the way the modern world uses that word. It was a set of daily practices, performed in a specific order, for a specific spiritual and psychological reason, that over the course of years and generations builds a family into a vessel that wealth does not leave. My name is Rabbi Naomi, and I have spent over 3 decades at the intersection of ancient Jewish wisdom and the practical mechanics of how families build and protect prosperity. My lineage is not academic. It passed through women like Rivka, women who survived the collapse of entire economies, who rebuilt in new countries with nothing but these habits and the knowledge of why they worked. And now I'm going to give them to you. 5 daily habits, specific, precise, practiced by Jewish families that have remained wealthy, not just comfortable, not just stable, but genuinely wealthy in spirit and provision across 3 generations and beyond. Stay with me until the very end. The 5th habit is the one that Rivka told me last, because she said it should always be received last. It will make sense when we get there. And right now, before we go any further, I want you to type the words 3 generations in the comments below. Do it before we continue. When you write those words, you are declaring something, not just for yourself, but for the family that comes after you. You are saying, "I am the one who changes the pattern." That declaration, made publicly, carries more weight than you may realize right now. Now, let me tell you something that will reframe everything you think you know about why certain families keep their wealth and others lose it. Most people, when they look at a family that has been prosperous for 3 generations, assume the answer is in what that family knows, the investments they made, the businesses they built, the schools they attended. Those things are real, but they are effects, not causes. I have sat across from people with excellent financial education who could not hold money for 6 months. And I have watched families whose grandparents arrived with nothing, no savings, no network, no language, build something that outlasted every economic storm of the last 100 years. The difference was never information. The difference was always daily practice. What the body does every morning before the mind gets loud. What the household does before the world rushes in. That is where wealth lives or dies. I want to give you an image to hold. Think of a river. Water is flowing abundantly, but somewhere upstream there is a blockage, a slow accumulation of debris built up over years that narrows the channel without anyone noticing. The water is still there, the provision is still there, but the flow has thinned to a trickle by the time it reaches the household. These 5 habits are not about generating more water, they are about clearing the channel, day by day, habit by habit, until what was always available begins to arrive with the force it was always meant to carry. The sages understood this. The Talmud is not simply a legal text, it is an instruction manual for the architecture of a life. And embedded within it, and within the oral traditions carried through generations of Jewish families, is a precise daily structure that protects the spiritual channel through which provision flows. This knowledge was not taught in synagogue. It was taught at the kitchen table, the way Rivka taught it, by doing it in front of you every morning until it lived in your body, not just your memory. Now, the number 5 is not arbitrary. In Jewish numerology, in Gematria, the number 5 carries the energy of He, the letter that appears twice in the divine name, the breath of creation, the open hand of giving. 5 is the number of the open hand extended downward, of heaven reaching toward earth. When you practice 5 daily habits in sequence, you are not just building routine. You are building a structure that mirrors the architecture of divine generosity itself. So do not skip one. Do not reorder them. The sequence is part of the technology. Let us begin. The first habit is this. The first spoken words of the day are words of gratitude, not words of assessment. Every morning in Jewish households that carry wealth across generations, the day begins with Modeh Ani, a prayer of gratitude spoken within the first moments of waking, before the feet touch the floor, before the phone is checked, before the mind begins its accounting of what is wrong, what is owed, what is missing. The full tradition says these words upon waking. I give thanks before you, living and eternal King, for you have returned my soul to me with mercy. Great is your faithfulness. Now, I am not asking you to recite those exact words, if they are not yours. What I am asking you to understand is the principle behind them. The first words spoken each day are a signal to the subconscious, to the spiritual atmosphere of the household, and, in the language of the tradition, to the divine intelligence that governs provision. They tell the universe what frequency you are broadcasting from. A household that begins each day broadcasting from lack, I have so much to do, there is not enough money, I'm so tired, why is nothing working? Is transmitting a signal that draws more of what it is broadcasting. A household that begins from gratitude, from the deliberate acknowledgement of what has already been given, is transmitting a completely different signal. I remember the morning I first understood this in my own body, and not just my intellect. I was 26 years old, studying under my teacher in Tzfat, in a period of genuine financial pressure. Graduate study is not prosperous work. I had developed a habit, without realizing it, of beginning every morning by accounting for everything unresolved. Every debt, every uncertainty. My teacher watched me do this and said, very quietly, "You are opening the gates of your day with a list of what heaven has not given you. Why would the gates open wider?" I changed the first 5 minutes of my morning. The result did not come overnight. But within 6 weeks, 2 things had shifted that I had not been trying to shift. A bursary I had applied for and forgotten came through, and a professional conflict that had been blocking an opportunity dissolved without my intervention. These are not guarantees. They are what I have observed. That first words matter, that the morning is a gate. And the question is, what are you saying as you walk through it? The practice is exact. Set your intention the night before. Place something beside your bed, a written phrase, a word, an object that reminds you. The moment you wake, before you assess, before you plan, speak words of thanks. Specific thanks, not vague affirmations. Name something real that you are grateful for. Do this for 21 consecutive mornings and notice what changes in the atmosphere of your household. The second habit is the separation of money from the first hour of the day. In homes that have sustained wealth across generations, the morning is protected, not from difficulty, but from the financial noise of the world. The first hour after waking is not the hour for checking bank accounts, reviewing invoices, scrolling financial news, or planning expenditures. It is the hour of preparation, of prayer, of study, of connection with the family, of physical care. The world of money, the world of calculation, belongs to a different time. This sounds counterintuitive to a modern sensibility. Surely the productive person addresses the most important things first. But here is what the tradition teaches, and what I have watched confirmed across many families. The first hour of the day sets the emotional and spiritual tone for everything that follows. A person who begins by immersing themselves in financial stress, even organized financial stress, is calibrating their nervous system to scarcity before the day has begun. They spend the rest of the day operating from defense rather than creation. And defense, sustained long enough, does not produce wealth. It produces survival. The Jewish tradition calls the morning time shacharit, the time of dawn. In a mystical understanding, the channel of divine provision is most open in this window because the world's noise has not yet accumulated. Families that protect this window report something that seems simple but is not: clarity. A quality of mind that allows them to see opportunities and solutions the anxious, scarcity-tuned mind cannot perceive. Wealth, at a very practical level, is often the accumulation of right perception at the right moment. And right perception requires a calm and open instrument. The practice. For 30 days, make a covenant with yourself that the first 60 minutes after waking will not include any financial information. No account checks, no news, no email about money. Fill that time with whatever nourishes you: prayer, physical movement, study, silence, time with your children. Watch what happens to the quality of your thinking by mid-morning. Watch what you begin to notice that you had been missing. The third habit is tzedakah, before income. This is the one that most people argue with immediately, and I want to address that argument head-on because the argument itself is part of the blockage. In Jewish households that have maintained generational wealth, giving is not something that happens after the bills are paid and there is something left over. Giving is the first financial act of the day. Not large giving. The tradition does not require that, but consistent giving, structured giving, giving that happens before anything else is spent. The principle behind this is not sentimental. It is not about being a good person, though it is that. It is about something more mechanically precise. Tzedakah, often translated as charity, but literally meaning righteousness, alignment with the correct order of things, is the act of declaring with your physical resources that you are a channel and not a container. A container hoards. A container cracks under pressure because it was never designed to hold what it is trying to hold. A channel receives in order to give. And in the tradition's understanding, what flows through a channel is never diminished by the flowing. It is maintained and multiplied by it. I have watched families apply this in conditions of genuine scarcity. A man I counselled some years ago, in his 50s, recently laid off, savings largely depleted, began practicing a form of daily tzedakah at my suggestion. Not large amounts. Some mornings it was a single coin placed with intention. The amount was not the point. The declaration was the point. Within 4 months, and I am describing what I observed, not what I promise, he had been offered a consulting position in his former field at a rate that exceeded his previous salary. He told me afterward that the practice had done something unexpected. It had stopped him from feeling like a victim of his circumstances. That shift in posture, from victim to channel, was what allowed him to show up differently in every room, to ask for things he would not have asked for before. Wealth, at a very practical level, accumulates in the people who carry themselves as channels rather than containers. The daily act of giving, practiced before anything else, is how that posture is built. The practice, beginning tomorrow morning, before you spend money on anything, before coffee, before gas, before any purchase, direct a small, specific, consistent amount towards someone or something in need. Make it a non-negotiable line before all others. What you are training is not just generosity. You are training your financial nervous system to operate from abundance as its default posture. The fourth habit is what I call the evening accounting, cheshbon hanefesh, the accounting of the soul. Every evening in traditional Jewish households, there is a practice of reflection. Not journaling in the modern sense, not productivity review. This is a specific, structured, spiritually intentional review of the day through the lens of financial alignment. 3 questions, exactly 3. The family sits, sometimes together, sometimes individually, and moves through them. The first question: did I receive anything today that I did not acknowledge? A small thing, a favour, an unexpected moment of provision, even something as unremarkable as finding a parking space when you were desperate for one, or having a difficult call resolve more easily than expected. The tradition teaches that provision arrives in all sizes, and that the family which trains itself to notice the small arrivals becomes, over time, the family that receives the large ones. Because the channel of acknowledgement must be kept open. What you do not notice, you cannot receive more of. The second question: did I speak about money today in a way that diminished it? This is not about guilt, this is diagnostic. Did I complain about prices in a way that broadcast resentment toward provision? Did I speak about someone else's wealth with bitterness? Did I use language that frames money as the enemy? The tradition is precise. The words you use about money teach your subconscious what money is, and your subconscious is the gatekeeper of what you allow into your life. The third question: is there anything unresolved between me and another person that involves money? An unpaid debt I have been avoiding, a conversation I owe, a resentment I am carrying about something financial. The sages understood, and modern psychology has confirmed, that unresolved relational tension around money creates a specific kind of blockage, not metaphorical, neurological. A person carrying unexpressed financial grievance or guilt is operating with a portion of their cognitive and emotional resources perpetually allocated to that unresolved thing. The evening practice surfaces it, and the surfacing is the beginning of resolution. Do this for 40 nights, not occasionally, every night. In the tradition, 40 is the number of transformation. 40 years in the desert, 40 days on the mountain. 40 nights of this practice will change the relationship your household has with money at a level below the conscious mind. And now we come to the 5th habit, the one Rivka saved for last. The one she told me last because she said, if a person hears this before they are ready, they dismiss it. But if they hear it after the other 4, they know exactly what she means. The 5th daily habit is this: speaking the future of the family into the present, every day, in the presence of the children. In the homes Rivka came from, in the households her mother described, and her grandmother before that, it was a daily practice for parents to speak prosperity into their family's future out loud, in front of their children, with specificity and faith. Not vague wishes, not, I hope we will have more one day. Precise declarations. This family is a family of provision. We have always found a way. We always will. Or, the children in this family grow up knowing how to generate, how to protect, and how to give. Or, our table will always have more than we need, and the door will always be open to share it. These are not affirmations in the modern self-help sense. They are something older. They are the verbal act of writing the family's financial identity into the next generation's nervous system, before the world has a chance to write something else. A child who grows up hearing every single day that their family is a family that prospers, that gives generously, manages wisely, trusts provision, absorbs that as reality. It becomes their baseline expectation, and baseline expectation is one of the most powerful determinants of what a person unconsciously creates. This is why wealth crosses generations in these families. Not because money is passed down, but because identity is. The story the family tells about itself every day in the most ordinary moments to the people who have not yet learned to doubt it. Rivka told me, that October morning, her hands still moving, that her mother had done this every single night at the dinner table. Even in the years when the table was almost bare, especially in those years, because those were the years when it mattered most to remind the children what kind of family they were. Here is what I want you to understand now. These 5 habits, the first words of gratitude, the protected morning, giving before receiving, the evening accounting, and the daily declaration into the next generation, are not a formula. They are a structure. And like all structures, their power is cumulative. One habit practiced occasionally produces a mild shift. All 5 practiced daily, in sequence, for 90 days without exception, produces something I have watched happen in family after family. A fundamental change in the household's relationship with money. Not just their thinking about it, their lived experience of it. What tends to follow is not always dramatic, but it is almost always real. A quality of opportunity that begins to feel less accidental. A confidence in the household that children absorb and carry forward. What I have given you today is one layer of a much larger system. These 5 habits are the daily foundation, the floor of the house. But the full architecture includes the weekly practices, the sabbatical structures, the specific language of financial intention drawn from the ancient texts, and the household arrangements that either protect or leak the prosperity these habits generate. Everything I have assembled from 4 decades of study and application lives inside the Prosperity Covenant, my complete program for building a household economy on ancient wisdom. The link is in the description. If what I shared today landed in you the way Rivka's words landed in me that October morning, as something carrying weight you could not yet fully measure, do not let that feeling pass without acting on it. Now let me tell you what to expect when you begin. Because the test will come, and I need you to be prepared for it. Within the first week of practicing these habits consistently, something will happen that disrupts the practice. A morning will feel impossible. A night where you are too exhausted to sit with 3 questions. A morning where giving feels foolish because the account balance is staring back at you. And a voice will say, "This is not working. This is too small a thing to matter." That voice is not wisdom. That voice is the test of the vessel. The ancient teachers called it the Yetzer Hara, the inclination that pulls toward contraction. It arrives precisely when the channel is beginning to open, because that is when it has the most to lose. Do not negotiate with it. Simply return to the practice. The habit you keep on the hard morning is worth 10 times the habit you keep on the easy one. The vessel is not built in the moments of enthusiasm. It is built in the moments of resistance, held anyway. Expect, over the first month, to notice small things, not large financial events, small ones. A moment of unusual clarity about a decision you had been circling. an unexpected act of generosity from an unexpected direction, a conversation that opens a door you had forgotten existed. These are the first fruits. Acknowledge them out loud. Name them specifically. Because the fifth habit, the practice of speaking the family's story, begins with you speaking your own story back to yourself as it unfolds. You are writing the next chapter. Do not miss the sentences as they arrive. Right now, I want you to type 3 generations in the comments if you have not already done so. That is your declaration. That is the moment you decide that the pattern changes with you, that what you received, your children will not have to figure out from scratch. I read every comment, and I want to see your name there. Next week, I'm releasing something that only a small number of families have ever been taught. The specific time of day when the spiritual gate of Parnassa, of livelihood, is most open, and the precise practice that aligns you with it. If you are not subscribed and the bell is not on, that teaching will go out without you. Press subscribe now, turn on the notification, you will want to be there. And if what you received today moved something in you, if something in you recognized this wisdom even before you could fully name it, press the like button before you leave. Every time you press it, this teaching travels one circle wider. Someone out there right now is sitting at a kitchen table that feels like mine did at 26, wondering why the effort is not producing the result. This video might be the thing that changes that. Let it reach them. May the habits of your morning open the gates of your day. May your table be the altar of a family that gives freely and receives abundantly. May the words you speak over your children become the inheritance they carry long after you are gone. And may the wisdom of those who came before you, the Rivkas, the grandmothers who kept these things alive through everything, find its full expression in your household, in your generation, and in every generation that follows yours. Shalom.